FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
Welcome, and you are listening to the Financial Survival Network. I'm Kerry Lutz, and today is August 16th, 2018. Just 2 days till that magical 8/18/18, and that is a numerologically significant date, although I have no reason why, other than the numbers repeat. So you have 3 8s and 2 1s, but hey, enough of that. As always, be part of the show. If you've got a better insight into why 8/18 is special, just email it to me. Somebody told me it was their birthday. It doesn't get any more special than that. The email address is kl@kerrylutz.com. Just keep in mind, next week's schedule might tend to be a little bit sporadic. We're going to be moving the home, moving the office. Right now, currently scouting Starbucks locations so I can locate my studio there. It's amazing. You know, if you just squat, commercial squatting, just take over somebody else's space, you save so much money. You don't pay, it's beautiful. You don't pay rent. You pay no utilities. There's no insurance necessary. I don't think you can get insured for trespass anyway. And when they tell you to leave, you just go to the next Starbucks. And then I just need a sign to hang on the door, and we're set. Well, hey, let's see how that experiment goes. I'm dead serious about it. If you got any suggestions, kl@kerrylutz.com. Well, what's the market going to do? Market peaked in, well, at least hit all-time record in, what was it? God, it was January of this year, and here we are 7 months later, no new records. And then it appears that the S&P, well, the broader indices, I should say the Russell 2000 and the NASDAQ peaked shortly thereafter. But there's been some movements in the market. Rick Ackerman is with us now. You find Rick over at rickackerman.com. Sign up for his free daily newsletter. It's well worth your while. His hidden pivot system, uncannily accurate. Rick, welcome back.
Thanks for inviting me on, Kerry. Always a pleasure to be there on Financial Survival Network. And let me mention that if you're going from Starbucks to Starbucks, you don't usually have far to go. There's always another one about a half a block away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. And, you know, like since we live pretty close together here in Florida, you could be my first live studio guest at the new Starbucks/Financial Survival Network studio. It'll be fun. If they throw us out, they throw us out.
Well, I look forward to that. You mentioned that some things haven't made new highs, but other things have. You know, the key high that I'm looking at, the market came down really hard, of course, in February, and made a low around February 8th. Big rally took us up to a secondary top high in the Dow of 25,800. That was toward the very end of February, but it fell a bit shy of the all-time high, about 800 points shy. All right, so since then, the NASDAQ, which is lunatic-powered, it's got some of those FANG stocks, has actually made new highs, but the Dow has struggled, and the Dow has not gotten above that secondary peak that we made, the big rally from that bombed-out low. And it came pretty close a week or so ago, but not quite there. So it's sort of a divided market, and you can see that the chimpanzees who make such great money throwing other people's hard-earned money at Amazon. I used to say a whole bunch of stocks, but really they just all they do is that's the only trick they know is buy Amazon. So that's what they've done, and it gives kind of the illusion that they're in control and the illusion that we've still got a bull market. That's possible, and you know, the other day I did something I don't usually do. Ordinarily I just stick with the charts, but it got so absurd wall of worry that the market was climbing into. It was, I guess, oblivious to it. And I thought, this is just too much. I think the market's it's in for a nasty correction. So we were down 300 and some points yesterday. It looked like a timely, or a couple days ago, and it looked like a timely call. But yesterday, the market, it came down and it rallied. By the close, it had recouped half, and it looked like the bears were on the ropes. So that's definitely true. You can see the Dow's up over 300 points as we speak. So sometimes I think even though you can kill a vampire with a stake through the heart or a silver bullet, this market it seems impervious.
Yeah, it certainly does. Fascinating times we are living in for sure. Hey, so what about the commodity sector? It looks like all commodities are headed lower. Copper, at least all industrial commodities. The ag commodities, different story. But we've seen like base metals take a hit. Palladium, platinum, gold, silver, obviously. They have more to go, or have they bottomed out?
Well, one of the bricks in that wall of worry is the whole tariff thing with Trump. And a few months ago, we would have said, hey, he's just playing poker. But at this point, you can see it's like he's pushing it all in on every hand. So even though Amazon can look like it's oblivious to the real world, things like copper are not. So copper has come down. It's had an enormous sell-off since early June. We had prices trading up around about $3.30 a pound, and most recently we're trading $2.62 as I speak. The key number in copper is $2.53 a pound versus the September COMEX contract. And we've been down as low as, it looks like $2.55. So we've got just a couple more pennies to go. But if it takes out that $2.53, what I call a hidden pivot support, that's something from my own technical method, we could go all the way to $2.20 a pound. And what that's reflecting, China is the biggest buyer in the world at the margin of copper. And because of that, they set the price. So if China is going into some sort of tailspin, it's really being reflected in copper's the savage beating it's taken.
Yeah, it's taken a savage beating. My own personal belief about the so-called trade war is we've been in an economic war with China since they figured out how to stamp a piece of steel in the 70s after Nixon reopened the lines between the U.S. and China with his historic summit that he had in Beijing. This is what we've been up against. Trump is the first one to ever recognize it. But the Chinese, they go and they put 25% tariffs on soybeans. And Ned Schmidt, he has a couple of different publications, the Agri-Food Value View report. And he said last month when they did this is insane because there are not enough soybeans excess production in the world when you take away the United States production for them to find in the open market. And as a result, China's got to come back to us and buy soybeans. Now, they stocked up before because they obviously were planning this. They had stocked up 2 months ago, a month before the sanctions, before the trade sanctions, which is what tariffs are. They stocked up and they bought like a huge amount. But the key is there's over 1 billion Chinese, and they got to eat every day, 3 meals a day. Even the Chinese, least they're going to eat is 2 meals a day. And if they want to cut back on pork production and beef production, then they can go do without soybean and soybean meal. But they've kind of shot themselves in the foot. And as a result, they're going to be probably looking for a graceful face-covering exit from this trade dispute. That's my take on it.
Well, I'd say that's possible. And of course, if China does come to the table in a somewhat contrite mood, or at least in a negotiating mood, that's going to be what pushes the Dow to at least 27,000. We're going to have an enormous rally, and you can't rule that out. But it's a dangerous game that Trump is playing. You're right that he has been the first president really to not just take notice, but to act on the fact that China and some of our other trading partners don't play fair. And, if you take even just the single question of intellectual property, the Chinese have been so abusive and corrupt, not enforcing the intellectual property laws, that they wind up stealing so much from us. So Trump is just kind of making a point, and he's taking a hard stance. I think that's a good thing, but at some point you wind up with a situation that could heavily impact on global trade. And as we're discussing, it's being reflected in this collapse of copper.
Yeah, well, like I say, the whole trade war is greatly overrated. Look, the EU folded like a cheap lawn chair. China is not going to fold like a cheap lawn chair, but they're going to make substantial concessions because I think they see that in Trump, somebody who is not going to back off, who is not going to stop, but getting back to markets. So that's kind of had a negative effect on everything. What about this strong dollar? Tracking that, what are you seeing going ahead for the dollar?
Well, I think no matter what kind of deal we strike with the Chinese, the dollar is going to continue strong. I've been a dollar bull forever, and the dollar index currently trading around 96.35. It's actually broken out in an uptrend that began early in this year. So, but I think the dollar index will eventually get up into the 120 range where it was at the beginning of the millennium. Mm-hmm. And, I hate to think what the world's going to look like to have forced the dollar to such heights. But I am, at heart, a deflationist, and the strong dollar is a part of that. And I just think, even though we're having an inflation now, the juggernaut is deflationary. And I think it's inevitable that all debts are going to have to settle in a hard currency. So I'm still bullish on the dollar, and I projected a month or so ago that the dollar index would hit 100 within 12 months, but it's getting there a lot more quickly. It's at 96.36 as we speak. So
right.
Initial target is 98.94. And I think we'll have that's my minimum projection right now for the near term, or let's say intermediate term, next 2 to 3 months. And if it pushes past that, I think it's definitely going to test 100.
I think you're probably right. It's at 96 and change right now, down a little bit for the day. So a short-term negative, people think that the dollar is just a unit of currency, a measure of currency, of values, et cetera. And that is true to some extent, but currencies nowadays are much more than that. They are infrastructures. And this is an international financial infrastructure called the U.S. dollar, and it revolves around debt, it revolves around banking, shares, et cetera. There's so much more to the dollar than just a currency unit. I think Martin Armstrong brings this point across so well, Rick, that the dollar is, look, if you've got $5 billion to park for the weekend, are you going to park it in treasury bills, treasury notes? Or are you going to put it into yuan, Chinese government debt, or into a Chinese bank, or an EU bank? And the answer is, when you've got big money to park and you want to be relatively sure that the following Monday you're going to be able to draw upon those funds, you're going to put it into dollar-denominated investments or whatever accounts. That's the way it's going to work, probably connected to a U.S. institution. Dollar is the only currency that a dollar issued in 1789 you could still cash today. Not that you'd want to, because obviously that's got collectible aspects. So the death of the dollar, greatly exaggerated, but a thriving dollar seems to be the worst thing for the rest of the world. Hey, Rick, we got to get going, but we find you over at rickackerman.com. Just tell us about subscriptions available.
Well, I've got a good 2-week deal. You can go to rickackerman.com and just click up at the top. It says free trial, and that will give you 2 weeks access with no obligations, not only to my daily touts and the intraday alerts that go out in real time, but to a chat room that draws great traders from all around the world. So I invite everyone to at least come give Rick's Picks a try.
All right. Hey, and it's really great. The Hidden Pivot System, proven moneymaker over time for sure. And your picks lately have been totally on the money, Rick. We'll talk to you again soon. Hey, questions, comments, kl@kerrylutz.com. And the Twitter handle is @KerryLutz. The Facebook page is Financial Survival Network. Rick, we'll talk to you again real soon. Thanks so much.
Looking forward to it. Thanks.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.